What's up, guys? Ian here, coach of your Ladner Lanturn, bringing you guys our Week 11 team builder for NCL Season 8 Zipstrika. We're taking on Stu and the Toronto Trevenants. I have not played Torn yet for Week 10. I was moving, so we had to extend it. I'm actually playing it after my game with Stu, so I'm dealing with all the Stu stuff first, and then we'll deal with Torn. So you should have an updated record properly by week 12. I'm not going to upload these out of order, so week 10 will upload before week 11, but by the time week 12 comes around, you should know my proper record, and we'll talk about playoff chances and all that stuff then. I don't have any clinching scenarios for week 11, so it doesn't even matter for me right now. I also can't be eliminated this week. So it's all going to come down to my Week 12 match either way. And yeah, that's about it for that. So Stu's team consists of Tornadus Therian, Slowbro, Nidoking, Silvally, Copperaja, Sandslash, Mega Charizard X, Clefable, Scrafty, Superior, and Electivire. The only priority he's got is Sucker Punch on Nidoking. He's got Hazard, and like Fake Out on Scrafty. He's got Hazards with the Nidoking with Rocks and Toxic Spikes, Sandslash with Rocks and Spikes, and Clef with Rocks, and Copperaja with Rocks, which I managed to forget. So let me just write that one in. Copper, SR. Removal options, he's got the Torn with Defog, Silvally with Defog, Charizard X with Defog, and Superior with Defog. Charizard X is probably not going to carry it with all those variants. And then 4 times weaknesses, just the one on the Scrafty to Fairy. So I am covering that. I think anything could come here. He's got a pretty diverse team. If I'm really having to guess, I think Sandslash is probably on the list of things that is not coming. Just in general, I don't think ground types are very good against my team, but just mons with ground coverage are. I also think Electivire, I would have a hard time believing that Electivire shows up, but Nidoking would probably serve a better role here. Torn is coming, Clef is coming, Zardex is coming, Slowbro is coming, Nidoking is coming. In my opinion, all of those are locks for sure. And then after that, he sort of like picks his poison. I think Scrafty is probably on the least, not on the least likely, but on the less likely side of things too, unless he brings it as like a secondary Dragapult answer, which is entirely possible. It does lose to Mega Gardevoir and Buzzwole pretty hard, but outside of those two, it does beat a lot of things, so it could definitely come. I do have double Dark, right? So fairly reasonably likely that he could bring a Scrafty to that. Serp, I think, is a little bit on the lower end of things, but if he really wants some speed control or thinks that Serp could go in against me, I do have a Heatran, so I'm not really sure what it's going to do, but he could bring Serp. Silvally, there's a variety of Silvally variants that he could bring. It's probably Silvally Steel if it's coming, though, if I had to guess. Or like Silvally Psychic could definitely be Silvally Psychic, something to pressure Nidoqueen a little bit more, and that could tank Mega Gardevoir hits a little bit better, maybe. But it's a bit bulkier than Copperaja to handle Mega Gardevoir, and that seems like the biggest threat to his team that I see. So that's where we're at for Stu's team there. Again, I haven't like marked anything down. There's just sort of like some less likely things. In terms of my team, let's go over what I'm bringing here. Luxray is up first, Assault Vest with Psychic Fangs, Iron Tail, Spark, and Volt Switch. Spark has a chance to paralyze, which is kind of cool, but it's also the same base power as Thunderfang and can't miss, so shoutouts to Lux for that suggestion. Psychic Fangs is there for the Nidoking, it's stronger than Ice Fang. Iron Tail is there for the Clef, and Volt Switch just to get some momentum. I should outspeed all of nothing, but basically all of his slow mons I'll outspeed with this, and I should be able to tank some special hits. It's primarily a Torn check. Excuse me, but it can also check Clef and the Superior decently well as a special Silvally in some cases. I would imagine this probably dies, but I can also use it as Intimidate fodder for some stuff too. Nidoqueen, I'm bringing a Shukaberry set for the Nidoking, or a Charizard X, in order to revenge them with Earthquake of my own. I've also got Poison Jab on there. Toxic will never miss, and I can catch a Slowbro trying to switch into me, or a Torn trying to switch into me with never miss Toxic. Sandslash, same thing. And rocks are quite important for me. I'm just going with like a run gun strat against Stu's team here, where I'm bringing a lot of offense after this, and so I'm bringing a little bit more of a specially bulkier Nidoqueen. This can also handle the Torn, it can also handle a Clef, but mainly the special bulk is there for the Nidoking, so that I live Earth Power into Ice Beam or something, or like Ice Beam into Earth Power, you know what I mean? yeah, that's the queen set. Just dual stab, rocks toxic. Rotom-Wash, I'm bringing a Scarf set with Volt Switch, Hydro Pump, Thunderbolt, and Trick. Trick is just to get rid of it on a Slowbro or a Clef if I need to. Volt Switch for momentum, of course. Hydro Pump to catch the Nidoking or the Sandslash or the Electivire trying to switch on Volt Switch. And Thunderbolt is just really good stab, so I think only one of those Mons that I named off about clicking Hydro Pump on is going to come. If I can deal with them, then I can just freely click Volt Switch all over the place, which would be great. Just offensive Rotom, like I said. It's outspeeding the Nidoking, so I should outspeed Scarf Nidoking with this as well, which gives me a little bit of an option there. Dragapult, I'm bringing Dragon Fang Special with U-Turn, Flamethrower, Shadow Ball, Dragon Pulse. I think this is the most effective way that I found of beating this team. Just because of Unaware Clef, Dragon Dance, Dragapult, which I've been trying to use a lot recently. Well, basically throughout the whole season. It's not very effective against Unaware Clef. But this sort of set is much better against a Slowbro as well that would want to switch into me constantly over and over and over again with Shadow Ball. Flamethrower is there for the Copperajah and a potential Silvally Steel. And Shadow Ball and Dragon Pulse just hit everything else really, really well. So I can kind of just pivot on whatever wants to come in on me anyways. It's not really that big of a deal. If I'm in against Clef and he throws up a Wish or something like that, then maybe that's a little bit more of a problem. But I get to be modest with Dragon Fang, so I can just fire off Dragon Pulses for most of the match here. I'm running enough speed to outrun Tornadus, so it doesn't matter what variant of Tornadus he is, unless he's Scarfed, I will outspeed it, and that still lets me be honest with a little bit of bulk on there. My Gardevoir, I'm running the same sort of speedy max HP guard that I've been running all season. Calm Mind, Hyper Voice, Wish, and Psyshock, just a little bit of recovery, some setup, and dual stab. I think it's pretty effective against this team. For the most part, Copperajah is definitely a problem, but Copper can't take a lot of Gardevoir hits. If it's coming, it's probably AV. I'm speed tying Zardex, so if he doesn't get a Dragon Dance off, speed tie it, and Hyper Voice will do a shitload to that. Same with Psyshock. Both of them are just really strong moves to hit the Zardex with, and potentially taking a speed tie to win the game. I don't know. It might end up like that. I've got Trace for regen, which is actually really helpful, or Trace Sheer Force. Doesn't do anything, but not with my moveset at least. But I could Trace like Magic Guard, things like that from the Clef, which would actually be very helpful. There's a lot of really good abilities here that I could take. Contrary is probably one of the worst though, so I really wouldn't want to take Contrary. But you know, Volt Absorb from the Electivire. There's a lot of good trace options, so I might opt into staying on Mega first, based on what I sort of see from their speed tier, or from his speed tiers. I'm not entirely sure what he's going to go with on the Nidoking, but maybe I could like catch him creeping Buzzwole, and then I win a speed tie and Psyshock it in regular form or something. I don't know. Heatran, I'm just bringing Choice Specs Heatran. It's really threatening against this team. His only really good Heatran answer is like Slowbro or his Charizard X, and I don't really think he wants to give me chip on the Charizard X. I'm not really sure what you roost on my team, so if I was maybe building his team, I probably wouldn't even bother with roost all that much, unless you're really trying to like roost on Rotom. But besides that, you know, it doesn't really roost on much, so I'm just running 4 attacks. Heatran, I had like double rocks in here, and then I swapped it out for Ancient Power as a way to hit the Charizard X. Specs Eruption will claim a life. I'm fairly confident, although I didn't check, that this should 2-shot Fizdef Slowbro. So let us check here. Heatran, Slowbro, defensive pivot, modest, choice specs, eruption, from full. Yeah, absolutely. 2 shots Fizdef Slowbro. It actually will potentially 2-shot Fizdef Slowbro, or Spidef Slowbro, I should say. Not in most cases, but what about AV? Fizdef Assault Vest does not get 2-shot, so that's worthwhile to note. But Eruption is just ass blasting that thing backwards. So yeah, there's pretty much no reason for me not to just like bring it in and click Eruption. You know, bring it in on a slower mon and click Eruption over and over and over and over again until I die, or I've punched a big enough hole in his team where he's like, my theory with Heatran is that he's going to end up having to sack something to the Heatran from clicking Eruption over and over again, and then He can bring in an offensive mon that outspeeds me, like a Nidoking, a Zardex, Torn, I guess, but like I don't know why you'd want to bring in Torn unless you're trying to miss with Focus Blast, or you've definitely got superpower. So, yeah, to me, there's very few options that he can actually bring in to threaten the Heatran afterwards. It's pretty much just the Nidoking or the Zardex. And while I don't have good answers to either of those, potentially it gives Rotom a free switch. So we take those, you know? Because there's no chance that the Nidoking is just going to click a Sludge Wave on a Heatran. In my mind, I don't see a reason for him to click Sludge Wave against my team with Heatran in. It just doesn't make a ton of sense. But yeah, that's going to be it for the Mons that are coming. Oh, Heatran outspeeds offensive Clefable. So I'm outspeeding max speed Clef, and that still lets me be bonused. So I'll outspeed everything under 240. Sorry, 240 or under. Where was I going with this? Ones that I'm not bringing. Zarude, I was almost in a position where I was forced to bring it because of Slowbro, and I opted out of that just to go with a much more offensive game plan because I think Zarude is pretty awful this game. It's potentially the worst mon on my team in this entire matchup. So yeah, hopefully no need for Zarude in future ones. Persian is okay. It's not terrible. It's not great. Kecleon, same sort of thing. I feel like I just go through this every single time I'm doing a builder. Buzzwole is really stopped a lot by the Clef and the Torn. Besides that, Buzzwole is pretty solid. It's a decent way to just like break the Slowbro. It's a really good sponge for the Scrafty and the Sandslash and the Copperajah. And it can be okay against Zardex. It would not surprise me if he brought some like special coverage just so that he was able to break the Buzzwole a little bit better, I should say. And then Abomasnow, the Zardex is like the biggest threat to my team, so there's just like no shot that I'm gonna bring Abomasnow against this. But Abomasnow is another one that can beat like Tornado Slowbro. No, it's the mon that can beat Tornado Slowbro, but Zardex just is too much of a problem, and I don't like giving up momentum like that. So that is the team. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and hopefully you have followed up to this point. And if you've watched up to this point, I don't know what I haven't even built a team for Torn, to be honest with you, but we'll sort of see how that plays out. If I win one of my games and I don't get blown out of the other two of my last three here, then I should be okay for playoffs. If I win two, then I'm definitely in for playoffs. And if I win all three, I'm definitely in for playoffs. If I lose all three, there's a high likelihood that I am not making playoffs. So we definitely need to win at least one of our next three and pull as much differential as we can out of all of these games if we're losing. Because my differential is on the high end of the 5-win teams right now, and I can't afford to have it drop into the mid-tier or the low tier of the 5-win teams currently, because that would just probably end any shot I have of playoffs. At the moment, there is still actually a chance that I could relegate, so that's a little bit scary as well, despite me being in a playoff position currently. And that's pretty terrifying. But again, hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys for our match.